CEO sees black maid's daughter solving a $1 billion problem in seconds. What he did shocked everyone. It was nearly midnight when James Holbrook, the CEO of a global tech company worth billions, sat alone in his glass-walled corner office, forehead resting in his palms. His entire empire, Holbrook Innovations, was on the brink of a catastrophic failure. A critical AI algorithm developed for national cybersecurity had a flaw no one could crack, not even the world's top engineers flown in over the past 3 weeks. Investors were panicking. Government contracts were on hold. The future of the company, and perhaps the safety of the nation, was hanging by a thread. In the silence, the only sound was the gentle swish of the cleaning crew. Maria, the building's longtime maid, pushed her cart quietly, always respectful of those burning the midnight oil. She never disturbed anyone. She just did her job with grace, a gentle smile on her face, and disappeared into the shadows. But tonight, she wasn't alone. Trailing behind her was her 13-year-old daughter, Aaliyah, a quiet, observant girl with large, curious eyes and an old backpack slung over her shoulder. Their babysitter had cancelled last minute, and Maria couldn't afford to miss another shift. So she brought Aaliyah, hoping she'd sit quietly and do her homework in the break room. James noticed the girl as she walked past his office, notebook in hand, her head turning briefly toward the glowing code on his 6-monitor setup. "What's this?" she asked gently, standing a few feet away from the open door. Her voice was shy but polite. James looked up, half annoyed, half exhausted. "It's nothing you'd understand, sweetheart. Just grown-up stuff." Aaliyah didn't flinch. She tilted her head, adjusted her glasses, and walked in slowly. "Is that your algorithm?" she asked, pointing to the scrolling data. "The logic gates looping incorrectly. You're redirecting the trigger before completing the encryption cycle." James blinked. "What did you say?" Aaliyah stepped closer, gripping her notebook. "It's recursive, but not optimally. It's bouncing back too early. You should delay the trigger by 0.3 nanoseconds and use a parallel bypass." She pulled out her notebook and showed him a scribbled diagram of what she meant. James leaned in. He recognized it instantly. This child had just pinpointed the core issue that eluded a dozen PhDs. "Who are you?" he whispered, stunned. "I'm Aaliyah. My mom works here," she said, glancing proudly at Maria who stood frozen in the hallway, unsure whether to be afraid or amazed. James stared at the sketch again. Could it really be this simple? "Come with me," he said, grabbing the notebook and rushing to the code terminal. They spent the next 45 minutes typing, adjusting, testing. Aaliyah's mind worked like lightning, breaking down logic structures, reassembling code pathways. James, for the first time in weeks, felt hope flicker in his chest. When they finally hit enter, everything clicked. The algorithm passed. Not just passed, it thrived. The AI stabilized, secured itself, and self-corrected at record speed. James stood up, mouth open, eyes wet. The billion-dollar disaster was gone. Solved. By a 13-year-old girl in hand-me-down shoes. Maria stepped in cautiously. "Mr. Holbrook, I'm sorry if she..." James turned to her, voice shaking. "Maria, do you know what your daughter just did?" She looked confused. "She fixed something. She may have just saved my company." "No, she may have saved national security." There was silence. The only sound was the soft hum of the servers and Aaliyah nervously shifting on her feet. James kneeled down in front of her. "Aaliyah, how do you know this? Who taught you?" She shrugged. "Nobody really. I just read books from the library. I like computers." James sat back. Here was a genius, undiscovered, unseen, unheard. Living in the margins of society, with a mind brighter than any he'd ever seen. The next morning, a board meeting was called. James stood before his elite panel of investors, flanked not by senior engineers, but by Maria and Aaliyah. "This," he said, placing his hand gently on Aaliyah's shoulder, "is the reason our company is still standing today." The room fell silent as he told the story. Men in suits looked at each other, unsure whether to be shocked or ashamed. They'd spent millions searching for a solution in the wrong places, Harvard, Stanford, MIT, when the answer was pushing a mop down their hallways. One board member whispered, "Is she some kind of prodigy?" James smiled. "She's brilliance in its purest form. And it's time we do something about it." Within 24 hours, Holbrook Innovations launched a brand new initiative, the Aaliyah Project, a nationwide scholarship and mentorship program aimed at finding hidden talents in underserved communities. The first full scholarship, covering middle school through PhD, was awarded to Aaliyah. The media went wild. Black Maid's daughter saves tech giant. 13-year-old genius solves billion-dollar problem. From broom closet to boardroom. But Aaliyah didn't care about the cameras. All she cared about was the fact that her mother, for the first time, didn't have to clean another toilet to pay the bills. James promoted Maria to head of community outreach and tripled her salary. At a press conference a week later, a reporter asked James, "Why are you doing all this? She's just one kid." James paused before answering. "She's not just one kid. She's every kid we overlook. Every brilliant child born into poverty, every genius who's never given a seat at the table. My mistake was assuming talent only lived in places I understood. But talent, like kindness, knows no status." Aaliyah was invited to speak at tech conventions, universities, even the United Nations. Her humble presence, her big glasses, and her unwavering heart melted millions across the world. But one of the most emotional moments came months later, at a local school in her neighborhood. Aaliyah stood in front of a room of children who looked just like her, black, brown, poor, often ignored. She smiled and said, "Never let where you come from decide how far you'll go. The world might not see you yet, but I do. And I'm proof that one moment, one chance, can change everything." Tears rolled down the cheeks of mothers and fathers sitting in the back rows, including Maria, who clutched a tissue in her hand, her heart overflowing with pride. James watched from the side, hands folded. He had once built a company with code, but now he was building something far greater, with compassion, opportunity, and the power of belief. In the end, Aaliyah didn't just fix a broken algorithm, she rewrote the entire script of what was possible. And the world? The world would never be the same again.